So our next presenter is Dr. Osuanyi Quaicoo Essel. So he'll be right back in just a moment. But while we're waiting, I'll tell you a little story about how I met him. So Dr. Essel is a fashion professor from the University of Education in Winneba, Ghana. And he and I met at the Costume Society of America. The Costume Society of America is a international organization that represents people that are in the museum studies, people that are in textile studies, people that are in fashion studies. And we all come together every year for a conference. And he was at the last conference that I had gone to that was in Seattle, Washington. He came from Ghana, and that was his first time ever in the US. And he and I became friends, and I was like, I'm gonna be coming to Ghana soon. And I went to Ghana in summer of 2019, and I got a chance to spend 2 whole days with him at his university, learning from his students. His students taught me how to do authentic Ghanaian batik, which is awesome, right? And it was just an amazing experience. Their school has a fashion program, they have a music program, they have sculpture, they have graphic arts. And so it was wonderful for us to be able to partner together, because the University of Education in Winneba, before I left the university, it was important for me to put together a study away experience that our students in the College of the Arts, where they could go and experience Ghana. And so right before I left, we signed a memorandum of understanding. So now we have an agreement with the University of Education in Winneba, Ghana, and our students will be able to start going there. So real soon. So I'm hoping that that'll be able to happen really quickly. But you do have to be a student to go. All right, Dr. Essel is coming in. Okay, Dr. Osuanyi Quaicoo Essel is an African fashion textiles historian and practicing textile designer. And the garment that he has on today, he created the fabric as well as the pattern and sewed the pieces together. Dr. Essel is bad, I'm telling you. Okay. He teaches and heads the Textile and Fashion Education Department in the University of Education in Winneba, Ghana. His study investigates the diffusion of Rasta hair culture beyond the metropolitan centers in Ghana to establish the formal structures for Rasta hair promotion, how it is impacting on the youth amidst the stigmatization, marginalization, and discrimination on social, economic, and political repressive grounds. Dr. Osuanyi Essel.
Thank you for the nice introduction. And I'm good to be here. In fact, I'm here because she made it possible. Thank you, you and Professor Joseph, thank you. Yeah, in this particular symposium, I've been thrilled by what I've been hearing or the presentations that have come, because it adds a touch of sensitivity to hair. So what I'm going to present is in the context of Ghana, right? So no qualms, no offense, right? It's in the context of Ghana. So it is written, there are a lot of studies that have been done, and these studies establish that there is a stigma of Rasta hair in Ghana. Shabazz, Benton, Swaniski, these scholars have done studies, and these studies confirm that there's a stigma in Ghana. So I'm looking at beyond the stigma, why the rise? Because there's an observation that there's a rise of Rasta hair culture in Ghana, especially and particularly among the youth. So beyond the stigma, why the rise? And that's what this study investigates. Study conducted by Botwe 2019 and other scholars point out that when we theorize and historicize hair, it could clarify the link between civical and social bodies within the context of identity and ideology. So hair is a strong marker of identity And it also has context of ideology in terms of how we see ourselves. It has sociocultural, philosophical, religious, and economic impact in our lives. According to studies done by Owoha, 2016, the African hair trade, that is the commodification of wigs, weaves, and hair extensions, is worth over 6 billion a year. However, if you put the GDP of African countries together, you will not get this. The GDP, you will not get this. So only hair, this is how much is contributing. In that regard, somebody will ask, what should Africa do? That is not the subject matter for discussion, but another context we can look at. So there is Rasta hair dilemma in Ghana. It has become an albatross. So the stigma of Rasta hair has been chronicled, research into by Al-Hassan 2020, Whiteman, Swavinsky, they have all done studies, and this study points out that it is, no doubt about that. Interestingly, there was a case law in Ghana, and what is the fact of this case? The fact of the case was that a young student, got admission to attend one of the prestigious high schools in Ghana. And incidentally, these two guys were wearing locks, Rasta, what we call Rasta. One of these students is called Taron Magai, and the other one is Nkrabia. Taron Magai on the left, and then Nkrabia on the right. These students, despite the fact that they have received admission in that school, the school authority prevented them from getting access to the school. It became a very hot debate in Ghana. Why others are saying, why are you preventing these students from getting access to education? They are not here because of hair, they're here to study, right? And so even the Parliament of Ghana debated this on the floor. It was a hot debate. And interestingly, you get religious leaders poking their nose into this, and it became so sensitive, But as an issue of court, interestingly, the holdings of the court was that the prosecution did not, give compelling reasons, as to why keeping their hair would be inimical to the knowledge acquisition and harm students. Because the arguments they were making is that their hair that they're wearing is going to make others copy, and as a result, they will not learn, they will concentrate on their hair. And so that's the argument that the prosecution was putting forward. Interestingly, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, which we as Ghanaians are ascribed to, says that no child shall be deprived by any other person of medical treatment, education, or any other social or economic benefit by reason only of religious or other beliefs. And so clearly the Constitution allows that if somebody says, I'm wearing this kind of hairstyle and it's because of my religion, you have to allow. And based on that, they won the case, interestingly. But not satisfied, the opposers are saying we are going for review. As to whether or not the review will happen, time will tell. So these, stories tells you that, yes, there's a stigma. However, despite the stigma, there's diffusion of Rasta hair culture among the youth beyond metropolitan centers. In the villages where I come from and cities, everywhere you see them. The coast, you see them. So this study actually tries to look at the need for investigating and establishing the formal structures of Rasta hair promotion. Is there any structure that is promoting Rasta hair? How is it not happening? What are the factors? And that is what this study does. So basically, the objective is to examine the rise of Rasta hair style among the youth in Ghana to establish the formal structures of Rasta hair promotion and how it is impacting on them. In terms of methodology, descriptive case study, 26 participants. I use maximum variation and expert sampling technique, unstructured interview, and the method of analysis has been narrative. What did the study find? Now, based on the question posed, the reasons why the youth ascribe to Rasta hair is one based on aesthetics. They want to look nice. And so one said, I did Rasta hair for aesthetic reason. I feel good in it. And I look nice. So that was the reason. And if you look at the data collected, this is what is running through. They have done it because it looks good and they feel okay with that. Another reason is based on the philosophy of Rasta hair culture itself. They believe that they are the true African, or there's a Pan-African movement, and so when they do that, they're trying to drum home that Pan-African status. And so one said, I wear Rasta hairstyle because of the philosophy behind it. It makes me love myself as an African. The Pan-Africanism, the Afrocentric philosophy backing it, is what makes me uphold myself so high that I would love to project it. So it's coming from the philosophy background, the history behind it, and the fact that Rasta is traced back to the African history. Another reason is fashion purposes. Remember, fashion purposes are different from the aesthetics. Their fashion may be aesthetic, may have aesthetic background, but not necessarily so. In this case, they are using it to make fashion statements. Yes. So one said, I wear Rasta hairstyle for fashion purposes. My friends equally appreciate my hairstyle. So you want to make a statement with that. Another reason they adduce is the vibe or the consciousness. You see the Rasta vibe, you know? Yeah. That has to do with the emotional connectedness or feeling of goodness in wearing it. So the vibe that comes with it, how people, you know, interestingly, some people, I remember, I was eavesdropping a conversation. It was not a secret anyway, but they were conversing. Somebody said, look, we are nice guys, we cut our hair. We don't know why some people, maybe when they from overseas they come, they follow these Rasta guys instead of us. So you see? But it is the vibes that make them wear it. Other reason that is ascribed to it is religious. Rastafari itself is a religion, but that one is different from the Rasta hair culture itself. So, but the people link it with a connection. I mean, they get that connection that's because of religion. See, Rastafarians have their dietary culture, their values. The kind of foods they eat, they call them ITAL foods. ITAL means plant-based diet, right? ITAL, yes. And so they believe that that is it. That's the right way to go. But people also pose religious arguments to say that it's because of religion they are doing it. Interestingly, many of the respondents are saying, I'm doing that for aesthetic, for this, and not religious. Few of them say, because of my religion, that I'm doing that. So, interestingly, the structures for Rasta hair promotion, this is informal. It's religious, philosophical, fashion, and passion. In this context, we also look at perception. Having established that there's a perception, we also want to know the self-perception. How, as Rasta people, how do we see ourselves? And how do others see us? So in terms of perception, somebody gave an account. In fact, this account that they gave, it resonates with majority of the respondents, what they have said. And for that reason, I selected this one. So one day, I had a very terrible experience when I went to withdraw money from a mobile money account. Mobile money is like a wallet, that you put on your phone, so you can go here and just cash it. That's kind of simple way of, transferring money in Ghana. It was in the evening, and the lady who was actually in charge of that got scared and ran away because of the Rasta hair the guy was wearing. Yes. And so he said, I realized that it could give me problems since I love strolling in the evenings. I then decided to cut my hair. I have also realized that if you are a Rasta, with gainful employment, or you have your own car, people don't think evil about you. I wear Rasta, but I don't smoke. Apology, I'm not, but that is the perception that they're just saying. And I said, not all Rasta people smoke marijuana. But that's a perception that if you're a Rasta person, you smoke. And that's what teachers, even in the classroom, do that. If you are a student and you went to class with Rasta, they would ask you to get out. And that is why, the students had their toll, being blocked from getting access to senior high school education. Others also said, I have been discriminated against during my first time of first degree, and it means even when it comes to university level, because of that kind of thing, that perception people have, they may have this. Now let's look at how Rasta people see themselves. Despite the stigma, I am motivated to do it for fashion purposes, just as we encountered in the earlier question. Besides, I know deep down from my heart that I'm not a criminal or a bad person. If you think of evil for me because of my hairstyle, I care less. That's it. The self-perception, how they see themselves. So others also said, I feel that we Rasta people are portraying the original art, the actual art. We are proud of ourselves. I am proud of the texture of my hair. I am proud of the texture of my hair. I repeat. Here comes the texture exhibition. So I flaunt it. I'm comfortable in my own hair and skin, and I feel beautiful. The same way female might consider colonialist hair as attractive, and they have to force their looks to look like that. I feel it is beautiful. Mine is original. So I have to be proud of my roots. I feel that we are holding the indigenous culture, holding our heritage high. We see ourselves as the original people. That is the self-perception of Rasta people, how they see themselves. So if we look at the factors that is adducing this perception, one, it is miseducation or brainwash on the part of the populace. The populace have been brainwashed that if you are Rasta, you are a criminal, you smoke marijuana and others. And so you dare not do that. Again, religion. There's a high percentage of Africans, or like Ghanaians specifically, who have taken the Christian pathway. And so they would give you biblical quotations that say that you need to cut your hair. Interestingly, the same biblical quotation also tells that Samson was wearing Rasta and other people. And the Nazarites were not even cutting their hair, But they would just take one side and leave the other side. That does not favor them, And then special people effect. In Ghanaian culture, if some people are born Rasta, when they were born they are Rasta, and these people are revered, they are seen as a special people. And so immediately you wear it, they say, hey, you are a special person. So people distance themselves from you because we think it is the gods that have given you that, and you are so powerful spiritually. Yes. And then branding. Others will also wear it for branding, just for aesthetic purpose, to brand themselves, but they actually don't practice what Rasta people actually practice. So the reason for the rise, actually, from what we have learned, is aesthetic, lifestyle, personal beliefs, which account for the rise. And there is no formal structures for Rasta hair promotion, aside the informal way that we have hinted, religious, philosophical, fashion, and passion, because there's no religious or, if you like, philosophy that would just say, okay, we are a group, we are trying to promote this, and so we have established these structures, and you have to go through so that you become a Rasta. So it's more informal, emanating from the practitioners of the Rasta hair culture themselves. So the negative perception, in terms of conclusion, the negative perception has made little impact in controlling Rasta hair culture among the youth. The negative perception people have about Rasta hair has made little impact because it is on the rise. Again, the colonialist contacts and school education inform the factors leading to the negative perception. Because students were not, when school began in the 1500s in Elmina Castle, where slavery actually began, if you were going to school, you are not supposed to leave your hair. You have to cut it. Again, when slavery began, before you can be taken to, the door of no return, your hair needs to be cut. And the reason is that we need to make you attractive for commodification. I repeat, you need to cut your hair to make you attractive for selling purposes. And this is disgusting. And so this has entered the schools, public schools, that if you go right now and your hair is grown, you have to cut it before you enter. So the case law of Tyrone Magai and Crafton in Krabia versus the Attorney General was a very strong case for Ghana that is bringing about liberation for students. Rasta hair culture has thrived based on its Africanity roots and the Ghanaian constitutional liberties and needs to be accommodated and destigmatized. Based on this, I recommend that further historical research into Rasta hair culture for dissemination is eminent in the face of connecting crime with Rasta hair culture. So we need to actually do a study and see what is the relationship, what is the connection between crime and Rasta hair. On this note, Asante, thank you, Midase.
We'll have questions in just a moment. Oh, you got it? Okay, great. So we can go ahead and ask some questions. And Dr. Essel's research just gives proof that no matter where in the world, wherever there was colonization, there's distress for Black people in hair.
I have a question. I've noticed a lot of Caucasians, not a lot, but Caucasians are starting to wear their hair in a Rasta style. Has anybody ever interviewed them to see why? Is it a fashion? Is it religious with them? Or I just noticed, okay.
Okay.
It's a lifestyle for them, a lifestyle choice. They do it for fashionable purposes, but they also, it's like the continuation of the hippie culture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what it is. The continuation. It's just the.
Please forgive me. When you use the term Rasta hair, my understanding of it may be slightly different. So if you could just give me a little bit of clarity, because when I think of the term Rasta hair, Rastafarians, the way in which the hair locks is different from other forms of locks. So there are different types of dreadlocks. So when you mention Rasta hair, are you referring to all forms of dreadlocking?
Yeah, thank you. In this context, we're referring to hair that is not braided, like women hair. Interestingly, many women, if I'm not afraid, I'll say most women like wearing braided hair, that is Rasta, which other they wear. When Professor Ellington came, she experienced it. The other wear it, or do it permanently and then some change it within time. So in this context, I'm referring to the natural hair, which may be matted, which maybe have we call sister locks. In fact, there are types of this natural, Rasta hair. Some naturally will use eggs to create it. So we're now referring to those that are braided.
I think Dr. Essel's might be a little bit different in regards to because of cultural, but here in the States, the difference is the fact that it's free form, right? That's what you're talking about. So what's your name again, honey? Yeah. Brittany? Yeah, so she has sister locks that are very thin, that are created by a latch tool, right? And then I, for many years, had palm roll locks that you make by rolling your palm. The free form is what we typically see for Rasta, but I'm not sure if that's the same thing that is in Ghana, because I don't know if they've gotten it so, if it's all the different types. I'm not sure. Yeah, so, here in the US, we have different types.
Yeah, just as it's the same thing. So what I'm saying is the natural one that's other free form, but not the one that you braid with other, no, that's not referring to. When we say Rasta in the context, we are referring to, just as he said, the free form, either you mat it or That's what we're talking about. And interestingly, the woman who actually prevented the students is wearing what we call Caucasian hair. And so the parliament debate was, why are you wearing Caucasian hair? And then you're preventing the student from getting access. This is funny.
Madasi, wonderful presentation. I wanted to ask about, I know you were bringing up religion, but I was curious about initiation in Ghana in terms of akompos or the people I know who have been initiated on the continent and in the US grow locks. And when they've completed their time of, understanding divinations and just all the rituals that I don't know about, then they have a ritualized shaving of their locks when they've sort of graduated. I'm wondering if that came up with the participants in your study, if any of them were actually going through like an akomfo or a Khan ritual in that way.
Okay, thank you. He's moving into the religious perspective in terms of the traditional religion of Africa. And Ghana, we have a traditional religion. That traditional religion, the priests and priestesses who lead their followers have Rasta, right? That mat hair, the natural one I'm talking about. They have it. And that gives them special connotation that, yeah, these are the leaders, these considered as very special people. Now, when they convert to Christianity, they cut their hair as a way, as a signal that I am leaving this and I'm going here. But you see, this religion is a complex thing. If you ask me, and somebody who is experiencing Ghanaian culture, I am there, I'm an indigent. They will tell you they ascribe to the Christian principles in the glare of the public, but in actual fact, they are practicing the traditional practices. They are doing that. Because when a particular issue happens and they don't understand, they will go to the priests and priestesses. On Sunday, they will come. So I like that combination. You get it? So the hair, the stigma also starts from there. Christianity also adds a lot of stigma to the hair. And that is the religious battle that we need to look at, to get in between the lines.
Yeah, last thought.
Glad I could get it in. I'm interested about the gender politics of it, because it seems that Rasta is kind of like a more masculine hairstyle, and I wonder if there is also stigma to women's hairstyle, or is Rasta like both for women and for men, and kind of like how gender kind of like fits into all of it.
Yeah, in terms of gender politics, it seems the females are not part of this discussion. If I say that, they are not discriminated against on their hair. Nobody will run away if a female is wearing a rasta and isn't doing that momo or everything. Nobody will run away. It is the male, which have been connected with crime in terms of hair. And it's interesting, that gender politics. Because if somebody is wearing, female wearing rasta, we praise it. Wow, this is nice. This is beautiful. Wow. But if it's a male, then he's a potential criminal. That's it. Thank you.
So Dr. Taylor will be joining us virtually. Hello.
Hello, let's see if I'm present yet.
Great, we can hear you. Do you want to start sharing your screen while I read the introduction?
You have to enable the participant to screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you so much. Let's see, can I do it? Okay, I can do it now. Let me go ahead.
Great. So, Dr. Taylor is an assistant professor of sociology at Morehouse College. Her presentation focuses on consciousness raising and kinship care as performed by natural hairstylists. Please welcome Dr. Taylor.
Hello, greetings everyone. I wish I was there in person with you, but other circumstances have left me here in Atlanta. But nonetheless, we'll get started. So you don't need a mirror when your sister does your hair. A little bit about this title. One of my good sisters and fellow academic, Dr. Angela McMillan, she posted this on her social media page one day, and with it, it said African proverb. And so when I saw it, it immediately made me smile, made me just kind of light up. Along with being a sociologist, I am a natural hairstylist entrepreneur. I've been a natural hairstylist for about 30 years now, right? And my dissertation study was actually on the natural hair movement. So when I saw this particular proverb that she posted, first of all, it made me think about being a hairstylist. And to most hairstylists, if anyone's been to a salon, we like to turn the client away from the mirror. Like allow us to do our work. You don't have to watch. You don't have to critique. You don't have to tell me what to do, right? But the other thing is the point of turning you away and allowing you to trust me to do the process, right? That I am going to take care of you. And then also, especially for Black women, relax. You don't have to be in control. You don't have to work. This is your time to just be still, right? And so with that, part of the reason why I selected this as my title, I wanted to talk a little bit about particularly the consciousness raising and the kinship care that is involved in natural hair care. And I would argue that it's also involved with the hair care that many Black women receive from their stylists, regardless of texture. But because my particular autoethnographic experience is in a natural hair care salon, I will talk about that. But also because I specifically did research on the natural hair movement. Right. And so this is yet another image I saw online that just tickled me to death, right? Is it growing? Be honest. No. Be honest. And that is the thing too, in terms of the space of being with someone who is your sister, who is doing your hair, someone who has your best interest in mind. There's a certain level of honesty, but also a certain level of I'm going to take care of you, right? So this topic basically centers around Black women's experiences in terms of going natural, which was a broader study. I intertwined a little bit of kind of like my personal experience as a natural hair care stylist. And as I mentioned to you before, I have this background, one, as a sociologist studying the natural hair movement, but also someone who has a very intimate experience with the trajectory of natural hair over the last 30 years. So I want to briefly share with you in today's presentation my findings from my study. I can't go into all of it because it's very lengthy, but I'm hoping that some of the things that I introduce to you and share with you will spark some interest in my research. So either you'll stay in touch with me, or as my work is being published, you will look it up and you'll read it and cite it, right? But for the most part, I'm going to narrow it down to two very specific types of subtopics from the title, right? And the other thing that I kind of want to talk about, given time, is the impact of understanding natural hair care as consciousness raising and as kinship care, right? So foremost, out of my broader study, there were four very large chapters centered around these particular themes of from my participants. And so my study actually involved probably like 80 plus individuals in terms of surveys, but then about 20 individuals, men and women, in terms of intimate studies. And one of the things that I was able to find out from the particular survey and the intimate interviews were that there is particularly this idea around good hair, bad hair, which many of us are familiar with, but I also was able to introduce the presentability frame, right? And the presentability frame is in essence is that all people are concerned with presentation of self, but particularly for African American individuals, men and women, and especially Black families, we have a particular interest in making sure that we are presentable, making sure that our children are presentable. And that presentability frame informs if we're going for a job interview, if we're going to church, if an important person's coming over for dinner, that we are presentable. And oftentimes this presentability, we see this along with not only making sure our clothes are ironed and that we're well bathed, but that our hair is groomed, right? And so that is one of the chapters in terms of looking at the presentability frame and the particular importance of hair and hair grooming with regards to the ways in which African Americans not only basically get value for ourselves in terms of saying I'm a decent person, I'm a civil person, I'm a competent person, but also when we think that you're a person of importance, I'm going to take the time to make sure I'm presentable because I value you, right? Healthy hair is good hair is another chapter in terms of the particular language around health that shifted in the natural hair community. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But one of the things that really came out of the natural hair kind of movement and natural hair trajectory was this language around health in terms of either women choosing natural hair for their health, or because they were choosing their health, they end up choosing natural hair. It's absolutely beautiful to me now, specifically talks about the consciousness raising in the natural hair thought community, the way that Black women and Black men were thinking differently about presentability, about Black aesthetics, about the beauty ideal, and also about even to the extent systemic racism with regards to starting to understand that professionalism and proper grooming was centering whiteness and reinforcing anti-Blackness. And then one of the other chapters, which we won't really discuss too much, is this movement. It's a quiet movement, and the ways in which Black men and women either thought of natural hair as political, social, or not a movement at all. Right? So for us today, what I will talk about a little bit is the presentability frame and the relevance. And the reason why the presentability is relevant is because the stylist is charged with making sure that the client, the person that they're taking care of, is presentable. And oftentimes with regards to this presentability, they have to work with the good hair, bad hair dichotomy. They often have to work with colorism. One of the things that we understand is that, the phenotypes that associate us as Black people run from our complexion, the width of our nose, our muscle mass, but particularly the texture of our hair. And oftentimes the texture of our hair gets conflated in with the colorism, right? Being dark skinned with a wavy texture hair, or being dark skinned with a coarser texture hair, being light skinned with a wavy texture hair in comparison to being light skinned with a coarser texture hair. The presentability frame, what I recognized was that one of the things is that parents play a critical role in presentability. Oftentimes, Black parents are concentrating on Black children's hair and their particular appearances because they're exercising parental authority, but also racial protectionism, right? If a child looks unkempt, people are going to assume that they're delinquent, and they're going to think that their parents don't care for them. So this is part of the reason why parents will either invest in paying for their children to go to the barber or to a hairstylist, or because of the nature of resources in Black community and options for employment, many of us have at least one beautician in the family, right? And that person becomes kind of a gatekeeper over our hair. Once we get our hair styled, we're often told not to touch our hair, to leave it alone. We also are a little bit, the family becomes coercive authorities in terms of how you should wear your hair and present your hair. And one of my particular participants shared this quote with regards to understanding presentability. Our hair is different in comparison. Going natural is different for Asian women or white women, because as Black women, we have historically had to straighten our hair, or felt that we had to straighten our hair in order to look acceptable, right? In order to get a job, to find a mate, in order to be accepted in society, we had to alter the texture of our hair to the point that it was a detriment to our health. And so this presentability frame is not only held individually by people who fuss over their hair, it's held by our family members, it's held by people in our community, but also the hairstylist is very much aware of the particular responsibility that they have with regard to making sure that the client, the person who is in their chair, is presentable, and understanding the deeper social meanings that has for that individual. So with the natural hair movement, one of the things that we saw emerging was the centering of health. When we think about it in terms of centering the health, we're looking at participants who were either going natural because they started running, they started exercising, or there are individuals who had like some other kind of health issues that had nothing to do with their hair, but they were very concerned about the chemicals that they were choosing. And interesting enough, although this seems like something that is new to this particular movement, we find that historically, even during Madam C.J. Walker's time, Black women as beauticians and hairdressers and hairstylists, they also centered health. So also I would say that much of what we're seeing kind of is a resurgence of particular focus that Black women have had before, right? So when I think that even if you don't go natural for political or social movement, you might be doing it for health reasons. This is a participant's perspective. Another participant, this is Michelle, she says, you know, eating healthier, you might translate that to going to your hair. If you change your hair and put less chemicals in it, then you might translate that into aspects of other aspects of your life. And sure enough, that's one of the things that we particularly saw with the participants who were sharing their experiences, but also what I saw with my own clients is that sometimes it led to this domino effect in terms of this curiosity or concern. If I'm no longer putting a relaxer in my hair, you know, maybe I might start eating healthier, right? The other thing is that the hair salon and the hair space is also a space to exchange information. So also within the natural hair salon, you might see the conversations talking about, thus the consciousness raising, talking about health and centering health. So one of the things I found that there are 4 types of natural hair wearers. In terms of health and lifestyle conscious, these are particularly individuals who are choosing health. They might be running and active. They might be individuals who already make sure that their house, they don't use products that have chemicals in it, right? So having natural hair kind of fits within this paradigm that they have, this perspective. There's the image cultivator. The image cultivator, I basically describe that person as the professional who their hairstyle, they're natural for the reasons that they, you know, is a preference and they like the style, but oftentimes these are individuals who do not experiment too much, right? So this might be the sister like we see Kantanji with the beautiful sister locks and they have a signature style, right? This is the sister who might have the beautiful big hair and she has her signature style, but she doesn't have time to fuss over her hair. She wants to look presentable, but she has work to do. The trendsetter is the person who is natural and they might be natural, but they could also be relaxed another day. Hair is fun and they're very comfortable experimenting. They might shave their hair, they might wear a afro wig, they might wear locks. You know, they are the trendsetter that are choosing natural hair because it's attractive and trendy. And then the therapeutic care are those individuals who came to natural hair. Maybe they experienced lupus, or maybe they are dealing with a particular systemic illness and they're responding to that by going natural, right? So they're more concerned about their wellness and their health, and that has brought them, or maybe they've experienced alopecia and now they're engaged in therapeutic care for natural hair, right? So these are the things that the hairstylists are being mindful of, and this is where the hairstylist is basically addressing, like, how do I fulfill the client's needs? And this involves a certain level, excuse me, of consciousness raising for the stylist, but also for the sister that's in the chair of the stylist, right? So Sojo was one of the elders who was a participant in my study, and she shared this. You know, it was between my mother, the girl cousin, the older aunts, you know, because my mother was a hairdresser. So we were very, very blessed at a stage today with a lot of them gone. We have the connection to those descendants that are now and can carry our stories on to our kids and our grandkids and my nieces and nephews and little cousins that call me auntie. And so Sojo was speaking specifically about the experience of getting your hair done on Sunday in the kitchen. The idea that we had the kitchen-tician, but then we also had the beautician. And this particular experience in terms of what was exchanged during the hairdressing experience, right? And she refers to this as this kind of this historical moment in exchange of information, right? And Nell says, I would just really believe that it's because we're nurturing ourselves with learning what it takes for our hair. And this is another thing in terms of the consciousness raising. This is where women are speaking positively about going natural, right? So going natural allows us to nurture ourselves. It allows us to have this positive outlook. You know, I mentioned before, oftentimes, and I'm a hairstylist, some of the sisters that come and sit in my chair, and I have some brothers too, sometimes the chair is the first time of the day where they got to just sit and not cater to or do something for someone else, right? So it's also a time in terms of where we're shifting this paradigm where we're always working and doing for others, and also accepting that it is time for us to be kind of cared for and taken care of, right? So the impact of this consciousness raising, the impact of this kind of choosing health and awareness is what I call kinship care. Right. So one of the things that oftentimes research that looks at the labor of women, and specifically even intersectionally with the labor of Black women, is that there's often emotional labor that goes unnoticed. So, for example, the hairstylist, the bartender, even the barber, they're supposed to provide a service of styling someone's hair, but oftentimes we engage in this. Pardon me, my asthma. They engage in this work of nurturing, listening to the stories, kind of being an unofficial, an informal counselor. One of the things, particularly for Black women, is that we find ourselves doing this oftentimes, even in spaces where this nurturing is not required. We might be the CEO, we might be an educator, but oftentimes we're expected to engage in a certain amount of nurturing care and emotional work and labor that we're often either not acknowledged for or paid for. So to the extent that we look at emotional labor as being something that is taken from us, I instead look at the type of work that natural hairstylists do as kinship care, that's built into the fabric, that's built into a love and a positive exchange that reinstates the hair salon, the barbershop as institutions within the Black community, important institutions within the Black community. I have a short period of time, but there is a history of the hair salon and the barbershop actually being the spaces where Black people turn to for information. And it could have been in terms of voting, suffrage, in terms of information, in terms of civil rights movement, but it's very much this institutional space in terms of talking about the issues that are pertinent to Black people. So with the natural hair, we're seeing once again this kinship care coming about, specifically also addressing the very ways in which anti-Black aesthetics have negatively affected us, right? And one of the things we have probably seen with the natural hair movement is that this is spilled over beyond even just the natural hair stylist. We see this in terms of us having these blogs and these social media pages and t-shirts and these spaces where we celebrate Black women, Black hair, Black men, and just Black children in terms of uplifting us. And so I'd say that what we see is this reinstatement of the kinship care. So Nzinga says, literally, a community around having natural hair. That's pretty awesome. And when she went natural over 15 years ago, she said there was no vocabulary around she was doing. She said there was no term for big chop, right? She said, but now there's a community that makes it easier to be natural. Likewise, with the kinship care is the idea that we allow ourselves to be the epistemic authorities on our hair and our bodies. We have the knowledge. We are the ones to get to dictate what is important for us, if we should use coconut oil or not, how to detangle our hair. We are sharing these conversations with each other, talking about these processes, right? So one of the things is that you're dealing with your people, and then the other thing, you're dealing with your people, you're helping to enhance them, right? Black women are learning to complement each other. I think with learning to complement each other, we will allow the openness in our minds and in our spirits to be able to accept new things. Every sister loves her hairdresser, but if she don't go back, right? So that's where you're going to get that love from the natural hairstylist, right? So this is where half the time when you come to my chair, yeah, you want a new do, you want to look fresh, right? You want to look cute, but one, you also trust that I'm going to do my job, but two, there's a nurturing that you're getting in the natural hairstylist chair. And even if you're in the space with other sisters, there's going to be a conversation, there's going to be an upliftment. There is going to be a kinship care that also establishes that hairstyles not simply as the entrepreneurial space, but as the family space. Dr. Adia Wingfield Harvey, in her research on Black women who are entrepreneurs, found that Black women who are entrepreneurs as hairstylists often engage in what she called the helping ideology, that it was very common for them to bring a sister into their shop, have a booth space for them, but the women often encourage these women to go out and start their own shops, right? So we have this kind of sense of, I want to see you doing well. That's for the women who are working with us, but also for the people that we are serving. And lastly, Sojo, who was actually one of the elders of my participants, she said the broader impact of this natural hair movement, of this kinship care, of this consciousness raising is ultimately racial solidarity, right? The hair movement is going to make us start supporting each other, and then our economics will grow, and then our communities will give something back, and that's where I'm at with this movement. This is Sojo's words. This is where we give back, because the generations in between me Um, and these kids are so far in between. We really have to start working with them. We have not only hair, we have mental health, we have diabetes, we have the high blood pressure. I've never I've never seen so many sick people in my life, right? But Sojo was hopeful. We're talking about natural hair, and she saw a vision for something bigger and better for our community. So when we think about, you don't need a mirror when your sister does your hair, because it's not just simply about hair, right? It's about this broader impact that we embrace that has so much to do with a care and a love that we particularly need in our community. And I just want to reinforce the idea of the natural hairstylist as someone who is integral to that. So, with that being said, I hope I stayed within my 20 minutes. Thank you all kindly. I've provided my contact information if you want to keep in contact with me or hear more about my research. I think at this point, I can open up the floor for questions. I can stop sharing. I'm not sure if people might want me to go back to a particular slide or not, but definitely if anyone has any questions about my research or anything that I discussed today, please feel free. Okay. I'm not sure. Oh, there you are.
One moment, Tara, the mic just lost its battery power. One moment.
Uh,
Or you
okay,
can
no
just
worries.
tell me your question, then I'll tell it
Is
to
it
her. Oh,
on now?
oh, okay. She says she'll wait. Okay.
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 Test, test. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Taura Taylor,
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I had the first comment. I want to pour into you. That was an absolutely beautiful presentation. I am so proud of you.
Thank you. Don't make me cry.
I've had the honor of sitting in Dr. Taylor's chair. So, I mean, you couldn't tell now because I don't have no hair, but beautiful.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate you. Dr. Ref Fresco.
Tara, unfortunately, just had a house fire. And so she was planning on being here with us, but she has to stay with her family right now. But we send you love and we send you peace. We wish you were here with us, but we are just glad that you were able to join us now. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm coming there because I want to see this museum. I want to see this exhibit in person.
Thank you. By way of contribution, it's not a question, it's a contribution.
Uh-huh.
Growing up
Yes.
in our community, traditional communities back home,
Yes.
when you want to braid your hair, especially for women, your sister or your mother or somebody in the family will braid it with no cost. And
Yeah.
they do it with happiness.
Yes.
The person may be your neighbor who will just go there and do your hair for you. You see, and they do it painstakingly. They take their time to do everything bit by bit to make sure that they will say that, yeah, she is the one who did it. And so I agree with you, if your sister braids your hair, you don't need to be.
Yes. Yes. It's so true. Many of us, I mean, like I said, I've been a natural hairstylist for 30 years, but I actually have been doing hair much longer than that because I started in the fifth, sixth grade. My grandfather bought me a book on African hairstyles. Actually, he told me what kind of styles, we're gonna be braiding these kind of hairstyles. But it started with me practicing on the little girls in my neighborhood and the moms who, many of them who might have been single mothers, couldn't afford to send their kids to get their hair done. They'd send them to me. I'm pressing and curling and I'm braiding. So one, I got the free experience of being able to practice, and they got the exchange of getting the styles as they got better. So I definitely see that exchange as one of love for both the person who's doing hair, but the person who's also receiving the care. I always tell my clients when they're like, "You're so fast," or when I do my hair, it takes me so long. When you lift your hair up to do your hair, you're going against gravity. If someone's doing their hair for you, they're going down with gravity. You're meant to be cared for. You're meant for someone else to touch your hair and to style your hair for you.
Hi, Dr. Taylor. My name is Donella Jefferson. I'm actually a natural hairstylist in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yay.
I've been styling natural hair for 10 years. And
Yeah.
I didn't have a question. I just wanted you to know how much you resonated with me and what I do in the salon every day. It's so much bigger than hair for me. It's community. I had a young lady come in the other day. She's been wearing braids from the age of 2 until 16. She's 18 now, and it just broke me apart on the inside. But, you know, I had to say to myself, I have to change her mind before I can even tell her how beautiful her hair is. And that's a large part of what we do in the natural community. You have to change their mind about the image that they see. You know, how are you going to feel when you go to this interview or when you show up in this classroom, or because we're not used to that. And so you need to be confident when you go in with this natural hair. You need to, you know, be okay with it and be comfortable. So I just appreciate what you're doing. I'm absolutely going to look for you. I'm actually working on my master's degree myself. So you resonate with me so much. I will absolutely be reaching out to you.
Please do, please do, please do.
Any other questions for Dr. Taylor? Okay, thank you.
All right. Oh, well, take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
If you want to go ahead and start pulling up your presentation and share the screen, then I can introduce you.
Okay, absolutely.
Great. So, our next presenter is Whitney Harris. She is a former reporter, anchor, and multimedia journalist at ABC, NBC, and CBS local news affiliates across the country. She currently serves as an assistant professor at the University of the District of Columbia. Her presentation is about the unique challenges women of color in broadcast news face with regards to their hair and how this can deter journalism students from wanting to enter the industry. Please welcome Whitney Harris.
Hi, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this presentation. I first wanted you to kind of picture this, if you will. Imagine this scenario. You just graduated from college, you got straight A's, a wonderful GPA, internships, you've just gone above and beyond through your academic career, and you're excited to start your first job. And you hear from your boss who says, you know, he can't wait for you to start work, but there's just one issue, and that is your hair. He says that in order for you to start this job, you're going to have to chemically straighten your hair, relax your hair in order to start this job. It sounds a bit crazy, maybe archaic, but that's actually the reality for a lot of people working in TV news, particularly students graduating who want to enter the field. They're being told oftentimes that their hair is needs to change or is a reason why they can't. And so I am here to talk to you about that today. As mentioned, I am a former anchor and reporter for local TV news stations across the country, and I'm also now a journalism professor. And so this is something that's really interesting to me and important. So I've been exploring some of the unique challenges for Black women working in local TV news, particularly when it comes to strict regulations on their appearance and on their hair. So today I want to talk to you about three particular topics. First, just some of the background research and some of the information that's already out there about this topic. And then I want to share some reporter stories. So you may have already heard some. There are all kinds of stories going viral, if you will, about reporters and anchors, people on air now wearing their natural hair. So I wanted to share some of those stories with you. And then I want to talk about future journalists, the implications for our young people, the students who are interested in joining this field, and how these regulations on your appearance, on your hair, impacts how students feel about entering journalism fields. So first, in terms of the background information or the research that's out there right now about this topic, a lot of it centers on hair and skin color and body image. There's also a lot of information out there about Black women who face discrimination and challenges with regards to how they wear their hair, just overall in corporate America in the workplace. And then there is some research specifically about Black women and women of color working in news and the discrimination that they face. Okay, so the first research study that I wanted to share with you is from the Perception Institute, a research organization who does what they call the Good Hair Study. And they found that the majority of participants, both Black and white women, so this is even women of color themselves, have some sort of bias against Black women's hair, particularly Black women with textured hair in the workplace. This study also found that almost all women worry about their hair to some extent in terms of how to wear it for work, what they should do with their hair at work. But they found that Black women have much higher anxiety levels when it comes to trying to decide how to wear their hair, how to show up in corporate America. They also found that 1 in 5 Black women feel pressured to straighten their hair in order to maybe succeed or excel in the workplace, and that's twice as many as white women. And this last part might not be a surprise to many of us. They found that Black women spend more time, more money, and schedule many more hair appointments than their white counterparts. So we are literally spending a lot more of our time, our money, our effort in order to feel like we're fitting in or we have the appropriate hairstyle in corporate America. Here is a quote that actually really stuck out to me. It says that differences in body image, skin color, and hair haunt the existence and psychology of Black women. And this is from the National Women's Studies Association journal. So this is just a quote that really stuck out to me with my research, haunting the psychology and existence of Black women, our hair. Here's another study that I wanted to share with you. This is the Women in the Workplace study, and this is from a research group called McKinsey. And one of their most recent studies had 279 companies involved, and they actually said that little has changed since all the way back in 2015 when the research started. So not much has changed throughout the process of doing this study. And this study found that women of color were more likely to face discrimination, were more likely to just be underrepresented across the board in the workforce. And this third bullet point is interesting. Women of color were less likely to face managerial support, but they found that having, of course, managerial support is tied to higher success within a company. So Black women and women of color are less likely to be able to be mentored and supported into higher roles. That they faced more microaggressions at work and were just overall more likely to feel excluded and feel scrutinized, to feel judged, or to feel that their own judgments are being questioned. And this was particularly prevalent for people who were the only ones or the onlys, which means the only person of color or Black woman, let's say, in the company. That oftentimes onlys, as they're calling them, might feel that the extra pressure that anything they do for the good or for the bad will negatively or positively impact other people's success. So if I'm a Black woman, I feel like I have to do even better than anyone else because I'm representing all Black women, let's say. So let's talk about Black women actually working in the news. There is some research, including this, the Status of Women in U.S. News Media report. And this is from the Women's Media Center, which is a nonprofit research organization. And so they put on this research study every year, and they found that across the board, Black women are underrepresented in newsrooms. They also found that women of color are not being hired or promoted as much as their white counterparts in newsrooms across the country. This is both for print journalism and broadcast radio, that women of color are not being hired or promoted. And they also found that 12.6% of newsroom staff were women of color, but that was compared to 18% of the US population that was women of color at the time. So again, just completely underrepresented women of color in the media industry. So that's some of the background research that's out there about this topic, but I do want to share with you some reporter stories, as I mentioned. And before we get to all of those stories, though, I wanted to give you a little bit of background for those of you who are maybe somewhat unfamiliar with broadcast news, local TV news, and how it works. Usually you sign a contract. So a standard contract, especially in a starter market or a beginning TV station, maybe in a small town, you get your first on-air gig. And so a standard contract is for 2 to 3 years. So you're agreeing to work at that station for that amount of time. And so what the stations are trying to avoid is people coming in, getting a lot of experience and moving on very quickly to bigger, higher paying markets. So they're trying to kind of keep their talent there for at least 2 to 3 years. By the way, a local TV news contract, a lot of people think, working in news is so glamorous and high paid. And a lot of these small markets, a starting salary might be around $20,000, maybe about $22,000 to $25,000 a year. So you're not getting paid very much. You're also signing a non-compete, which means that you agree to not go to any of the other competing stations in your region or area or town. And then the station actually owns your likeness or your image, meaning, I don't know, you couldn't go out and model or use your photos or your image, be an Instagram star, whatever it is, but also that you can't change your image. So however you have agreed to show up to work, or, whatever your look is when you sign the contract, when you start, is how you have to maintain your look. And so if you want to cut your hair or color your hair or change your style or anything about your look, you typically need permission from your news director or your boss. There are also oftentimes consultants, so people who are paid to come into the station and tell you about your look. So, you need to throw away all these clothes, or you need to change this, or powder your face more, whatever it is. So people are paid to come in and tell you how you should be looking. And then if this is all maybe too much for you, too much pressure, stress, or you get a better job and you're ready to move on and you want to break your contract, that'll be about $10,000, which is the standard to break a news contract. And keeping in mind that that's about half of your annual salary if you're making 20,000 or so at your first market. So very discouraging. A lot of people might ask, do you negotiate, or what can you do about it? And certainly negotiating is an option, but oftentimes at these starter markets, it's kind of the idea you take it or leave it. There are so few jobs on air and so many people who want these jobs that oftentimes if you are not willing to sign kind of the standard contract, and this is for a small market just starting off, as you move to higher markets and get more experience, you oftentimes obviously have more negotiating power, but to get your foot in the door, it's oftentimes just, this is the standard contract, take it or leave it. So I wanted to share several stories with you about reporters. Some of these stories, like I mentioned, have gone viral, of people who have either had struggles getting a chance to wear their hair natural on the news, or some who have seen some success. So this person here on the right is Brittany Noble Jones. She was a reporter in Mississippi. And her quote here, "I was told my natural hair is unprofessional," and the equivalent to him being her boss, her news director, throwing on a baseball cap to go to the grocery store. So that was the reaction from her boss about her wearing her natural hair. She actually was suing her news station after she left for all of this. So certainly a lot of people have had really negative experiences in the news business, particularly on air trying to wear their natural hair. But others, as I mentioned, do have success stories, and you can see other people who have gotten to wear their hair natural on the news. This person saying, "How can I go to work every day with a weave or a wig or heat damaged hair and tell my 3 brown babies that their curls are beautiful?" So really important to her to get to wear her natural hair, and you can see she got that opportunity. So I wanted to share a little bit about my hair story or hair journey, especially as it relates to my TV news career. So you can see all these different pictures of me throughout my career at different news stations across the country: Richmond, Savannah, Georgia, Charlottesville, Virginia, in different markets with different hairstyles. So this is the first one here, and this is when I was first starting out in my career. And our station had what's called a trade. So our station would trade free advertising to a local salon, who in turn would give us free hair services. But of course, it was, a white salon, and a lot of the people, most of the people who worked at the station were white, and it was fine. But I was told when I went in and tried to get my hair done there that they didn't know how to do ethnic hair, as they called it. And so I was told, nobody could help me, nobody could do my hair. So I went to my boss and I said, I found other hairdressers who, can. I found black hairstylists. Could I maybe set up a trade with a black salon? And I was told again, the whole take it or leave it scenario. Absolutely not. This is our trade. If you don't like it, you can pay to do your own hair. And so I eventually did find somebody at that salon who was willing and able to take me as a client and learn how to do my hair. And he, as you could see, actually grew my hair very long and thick and full, and I actually really liked it. But then throughout my career, as I moved on to different stations and different markets, my hair started getting shorter and shorter. And this is without me ever cutting my hair. So from here, where you can see my hair is, to here, I never cut it. It was just all the heat damage. I was just straightening it so much, trying to maintain this look, maybe stress as well. But my hair was just getting shorter and shorter and shorter without me ever cutting it. And I was getting a lot of pressure. I had one boss who would text me in the commercial breaks. She would watch the show on TV at home and text me in the commercial, go back in the studio and you need to straighten your hair during the commercial breaks. You need to straighten it more, fix your hair, change your lipstick. So I was feeling a lot of pressure and my hair was just getting shorter and shorter. I did eventually go to weaves and wigs and all of that, just anything I could do to try to maintain this look. And after years in the business, I finally got permission to wear braids on the news, to wear my natural hair. But you could see I purposely chose micro braids and was kind of out and straight on the ends because I knew I wasn't allowed or able to make a drastic change. My bosses were still kind of on the fence about it and nervous, as they said, about it. And so I purposely still chose a look that, was somewhat straighter. Eventually, my boss did come to me that day and he said, "I was so nervous. I was so stressed. I didn't know what to think, but I love it. I love your hair in braids." And that was actually the day that I gave my 2 weeks notice to that job. So a very proud moment for me there. But of course, I am not alone. There are all kinds of journalists across the country, especially nowadays, who are wearing their hair naturally on TV. This is actually one from back in the day. This is Rochelle Ritchie, and she was in West Palm Beach back in 2010. And she actually did a whole special report about going natural and natural hair for Black women. And so after the segment, the stories cut off, the camera actually cut back to her, and she had done done the big chop, and she went from, you know, her longer, straighter hair to her natural hair. And she says to the audience, this is how you're going to see me from now on, with my natural hair. And I was actually in grad school when I saw that story for the first time, and I just absolutely loved it and kind of held her story close to my heart as an example that this can be done. You know, you can wear your natural hair on air. And so that was again back in 2010, but more recently, a lot of people have started wearing their hair naturally. This is Janae Norman from Good Morning America and Shelley Jones from the Today Show, who have both done big, you know, national stories about their natural hair journey and wearing their hair natural on the news. This is a local person for me, Jumi Ulabanji, and she wore her hair naturally, braids on the news. And then this is actually our next presenter, Sia Nyorkor, who's our next presenter and a news anchor and reporter at WOIO with this beautiful hairstyle. And I think Sia is actually in this picture, but this is a picture of several female journalists at the National Association of Black Journalists Conference or convention. And they represent just Black women from several stations and markets all across the country who wear their hair natural on air. And they took a picture that then went viral. So those are some reporter stories that I wanted to share with you. But the last thing I wanted to go over was the implications for all of this on our future journalists, because of course we know that journalism is extraordinarily important. I would say maybe even now more than ever. And we want to continue to create this pipeline of journalists, of students who are entering the field and passionate about telling stories and, you know, about journalism, and particularly people of color. It's important to have representation in our newsrooms. So as a journalism professor, it's something that's been very, very important and interesting to me. And so I created a focus group. I actually had 3 separate focus groups. There were 2 at the University of the District of Columbia, where I teach, which is an HBCU. And then I did 1 focus group at American University, which is a PWI, you know, predominantly white institution. So overall, there were 13 students in the focus group who all identify as women of color. They were all studying broadcast journalism, and most, if not all of them, wear their natural hair at least some of the time. And so what we did as part of the focus group is we all read some selected readings about Black women and hair in broadcast journalism. And then we came together for the focus groups and we discussed just their general thoughts on the readings, as well as how this makes them feel in terms of entering broadcast careers with their hair and how they wear their natural hair. And some of the students wanted to be on camera, some of them maybe behind the scenes, producers, directors, all of that. Here is a quote that really stood out to me about this focus group. From this focus group, one student said you would see all of these people in the industry with like more straighter, long hair. So it was kind of discouraging at the time, like, oh, I need to have longer hair. I need to have a wig. So this is what one of the students, Janae, said. And by the way, I did change all of their names. I had just recently mentioned Janae Norman from Good Morning America. I gave all of the students names of famous journalists to hide their identity. But that was one of the quotes that really stuck out to me. So in terms of the themes that kind of emerged from this, the first one was that you need straight hair for working in news. So the majority of the participants felt essentially like, having straight hair was important, if not completely essential to working in news. They felt like you had to have straight hair if you wanted to work in the news business. A lot of them mentioned seeing not only just white newscasters, but Black and white newscasters with very straight hair. And they felt like that was the look that they absolutely had to have if they wanted to work in news. So a lot of them felt like they might have to straighten their hair if they wanted to work in this business. Another theme that emerged was students maybe not pursuing broadcast journalism careers, maybe feeling like they no longer wanted to work in news anymore. So some of them maybe still wanted to work in news, but after learning about all these strict regulations on their hair, several students said, maybe I'll work behind the scenes instead. They didn't want to work on air. Others said, I don't even want to work in local TV news or broadcast news anymore. Maybe I'll do radio, print journalism, multimedia. I don't even want to work in broadcast or on air anymore. Some students do still want to work on air even after learning about all of this, but it definitely brings up a lot of concerns. Some of them say they don't see themselves represented. They don't feel like they would have a chance with how they wear their hair. And so a lot of them, it was making them very nervous, and they were trying to decide if this was still a career for them. And then still others, there was a category of students who absolutely still wanted to work in news. They still wanted to be on air, and in fact wanted to wear their natural hair. And one student in particular said, this is the entire reason why she's pursuing this career field, is because she wants to wear her natural hair on TV. And so that was another category of students and how some of them felt. And so the third and final theme that I wanted to bring up that kind of emerged from this focus group, from this research, is whether or not students would change their hair for an on-air role. So a lot of them felt like it was essential. And as I mentioned, the majority of the students, if not all of them, wear their natural hair at least some of the time. And so we were discussing whether or not they would straighten their hair for an on-air role. And several students said yes, they would straighten their hair if that meant landing their first job. And some said they would maybe make temporary changes. So if that meant, one student said she would stop at a chemical relaxer, that was out of the question, but she might do a blowout or flat iron or wear a wig or something like that. A lot of students in those two categories, it was because oftentimes they said they wear their hair straight sometimes anyway. It's a look they feel comfortable with. Or a lot of students say they change up their hair often, and so they don't feel tied to any one look, and they felt comfortable wearing their hair straight at least some of the time, especially if that would get their foot in the door. But some students said absolutely not. They would not change their look no matter what. Some were citing, discrimination and white supremacy. And we had some really heated discussions about why several of the students said they would absolutely not, under any circumstances, ever change their hair, even if that meant, landing their first news role. So I have some recommendations from the students. This is what I'll kind of leave you with. These future journalists, they recommended that employers take the time to learn more about Black hair, and that people of color be promoted more to upper level positions in newsrooms, that people of color, that Black people, Black women should be decision makers in these newsrooms. They even went a step further and suggested more Black owned media outlets. Several students said that as they're starting to see journalists across the country wearing their natural hair more, they're feeling inspired, they're feeling happy about their chances of maybe themselves getting to wear their natural hair on air, and they're feeling more at ease between that. And some students cited the Crown Act, which is banning hair-based discrimination across the country. It's being passed in several states, that's making them feel more comfortable and more positive about, their future in the journalism business. And overall, I just think this highlights the need for further conversation around race and gender in the workplace, in broadcast, overall, especially in media courses and in programs like this. So I thank you for your time. And I just wanted to leave you back with this scenario that we had before. So imagine you're a journalism student, you're right out of college, and you're ready to start your career. And instead of being told you have to change your hair, in fact, your hair is being celebrated and embraced, and you can wear your natural hair on the news. Hopefully that will be the reality for many of our journalism students. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Do we have any questions for Whitney?
Hi. Thank you for this great presentation. I learned a lot. I have a question about age, kind of like in how age is factor in, because like it's not just the texture of the hair, right, but also kind of like hair color, kind of like what is the pressure for seeing older and even old maybe, and kind of like also is the attitude towards kind of like those requirements differ from kind of like people who are older and kind of like more years in the industry or less and kind of like just wanting to get a foot in the door. So just
Absolutely. I can just say that there are multi-layered, there are all kinds of levels of the discrimination that people face. And so absolutely ageism in news is certainly a type of discrimination that people face as well. So like you said, anything from older women dyeing their hair and older men as well. I know plenty of older men in the news business who are constantly dyeing their hair, women who are, wearing weaves and wigs and all kinds of things to make their hair look younger, fuller, darker, not as gray. So absolutely, I think that's something worth exploring more. And certainly, I think that age plays a role as well as race and gender.
Any other questions for Whitney? Okay. Thank you, Whitney. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, our next presentation is actually going to be a short documentary. And if you need to use the restroom, you may want to try to go right now. Dr. Joseph and I are going to get everything all set up. Oops. Oh, okay. Okay.
I think it should be fine if we just play it right off the drive.
You're watching a 19 News special report, The Next 400, digging into the tangled roots of black hair culture.
From straight to curl.
Yep. Okay. Okay. this in there. Sure. I'm just checking the volume on this, so don't.
You're watching a 19 News special report, The Next 400, digging into the tangled roots of black hair culture.
From straight to curly, natural or relaxed, locks to froze, black hair is a cultural phenomenon.
It's actually a piece of art, especially in our culture. A work of art.
It's my crown. Glowing reviews of black hair.
So I'll go ahead and introduce the journalist broadcaster who put together the special report, and then we'll watch it, and then she'll come up at the end. After this, we'll have a little break to adjourn if people need to go freshen up, walk around, if you want to view the exhibition with maybe a new perspective, and then we'll come back at 6 o'clock for our keynote. So this documentary was produced by Sia Nyorkor. She's an Emmy and award-winning anchor and reporter at WOIO-TV, the CBS News affiliate in Cleveland, Ohio. This aired online, aired, and then it was also posted online, and I also look forward to hearing more about the effect and legacy and the reception of this, so please enjoy.
You're watching a 19 News special report, The Next 400, digging into the tangled roots of black hair culture.
From straight to curly, natural or relaxed, locks to froze, black hair is a cultural phenomenon.
It's actually a piece of art, especially in our culture. A work of art.
It's my crown. Glowing reviews of black hair, but from the early days, these locks have been treated as a problem.
But society made our hair politicized.
And for some, it still is.
We're in almost kind of like this tangled web.
Such a cultural touch point.
Popularized in movies.
What's your definition of good hair?
And oftentimes punished in workplaces and schools.
I didn't know how stressed out I was about my hair until I worked for a company who had the crown law.
Recently denied his chance to walk at graduation. Why a teacher would cut his child's hair at school.
A new trend is emerging.
I only do natural hair because I want black women to know that they don't have to alter their appearance to feel beautiful.
But at the root of this debate, a sense of not belonging still lingers.
I feel like I need to wear it shorter and straight to be more acceptable.
We move from the art exhibit to the salon to a frank and engaging conversation right here at 19 News with familiar faces. We examine the roots of black hair care and culture, a story of education and celebration.
When you look at these pictures, what do you see? Women with all different hairstyles. But for the black community, hair is more than layers of locks. These tresses come with a painful history of racial power and politics. There's a new exhibit at Kent State University that's bringing people from all backgrounds to the museum. Textures, the history and art of black hair. It examines the intricate history and evolving nature of the culture and walks through how we got to where we are now. Why are black people treated differently for their hair? Legislation is pending called the Crown Act all over the country, including right here in Ohio, that would ban hair discrimination. Here's my special report, The Next 400, digging into the tangled roots of black hair culture.
Here on the walls of the Kent State University Museum, internal battle. The artist Taura Taylor pondering the decision, natural hair or straightened. It's a question many Black women have battled with now for generations.
When I think of childhood and my hair, I think of sitting between my mother's legs.
Straightening comb, crying, and beautiful afterwards.
Process is long, strenuous, difficult.
It was a chore. It was a chore for me and my mom weekly.
Untamed, ugly, and just unloved when my hair wasn't done.
For almost 2 decades, PhD professor Tamika Ellington has been researching Black hair all the way back to when she was a master's student at Michigan State University, writing scholarly essays, journals, book chapters, and encyclopedia articles. It's her life's work now realized here in this exhibition, Textures, the History and Art of Black Hair.
I wanted a creative way to be able to explain, to people what the Black culture was like in relevance to the hair. And I had been thinking about and dreaming about what an exhibition might be.
She and Dr. Joseph Underwood curated all of this.
It's a story that's not been told on these walls, I can tell you.
For 5 years, the two professors collaborated, designing and crafting what this would be, building the collection of more than 180 artifacts from about 50 artists all over the world.
We wanted to create a better understanding of Black culture, of Black hair, of the significance of what Black hair means to the culture.
I am Chinese American. I don't have Black hair, and yet the story of it, how it has impacted society, how it impacts current politics, I'm part of that world.
The history of Black hair is complicated, intricate, tangled, and sometimes even fragile. It's been talked about and debated, especially right here in the beauty salon.
Society made me feel my Black hair was always on display, something that might always have to be explained, something that everybody didn't understand.
Not good enough.
Unacceptable. I couldn't wear my hair the way I wanted to wear my hair to be accepted in society.
We always have to try to figure out how to meet a standard with our hair, and making sure that our hair is good has been something that, as a Black woman, I've had to carry.
The topic of Black hair has been covered over the years in pop culture on the little and big screens.
Sisters, let's talk about hair.
You heard. It ain't even real. You wish you had hair like this.
But the portrayals haven't always been to everyone's liking. Some say the depictions lack depth and context, themes Dr. Ellington and Dr. Underwood strive to bring to their Textures exhibit.
So this is the largest exhibition on this topic, and the first to really integrate fine art with material culture and artifacts.
We also wanted people to get a sense of the struggle that Black women have had in particular, regarding their hair and the racism that they've dealt with, discrimination that they've dealt with. And we even go back to, topics of what was going on in slavery times.
We told you earlier, digging into these locks reveal a painful history mixed with racial power and politics.
One of the first things that slave traders did was cut off the hair of many of the people that they captured. Doing that was, in essence, a way to almost kind of cut off the connection that they had with their roots and their tribe. After, the abolishment of slavery, we were told once it was time for us to become employable, we were told that we had to straighten our hair. We were told that we had to lighten our skin. Our bodies have always been regulated.
The subject of Black hair is one that's very personal for me. Born here in America to West African immigrants, I struggled my entire life and my own career on how to wear my hair. Rock it natural or rock it straight. As a youngster, that decision was made for me.
I got my first relaxer at just 9 years old and watched over the years as my hair got shorter and thinner because of the chemicals. My hair shortened and even fell out many times over the years, but still, I wanted it straightened. Finally, in 2011, I went natural. No more relaxers. For more than 2 years, I wore my hair in sew-in weaves and extensions, hiding my natural hair. When I went to do the big chop in 2014, I found I didn't have to. All my relaxed hair had grown out, leaving me with a thick head full of hair that swirled around my shoulders. My hair had never been that healthy, ever. However, because of the outdated and stringent rules in television news, I kept my natural locks hidden underneath.
In this latest incident, 911 callers describe two men shooting at each other.
In order to succeed, I felt I had to follow the guidelines for moving up in the broadcast business: sleek and straight hair. In 2018, I decided I was tired of hiding my crown and made the decision to wear my natural hair on air. Risking it all, I didn't ask for permission. I just did it. To my surprise and delight, my managers and the television viewers embraced and celebrated it. In 2019, CBS News profiled me and some of the other Black women working in television and rocking our natural hair on air. We went viral after snapping this photo at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention in Miami.
Sia Nyorkor, a weekend anchor at WOIO, the CBS affiliate in Cleveland, was front and center.
Just to, walk out and you see so many women with curls, with braids, with locks, saying, you know what? I'm accomplished, I'm professional. It was just beautiful.
Nyorkor decided to go natural on TV last year in an industry dominated by straight, slick hairstyles.
I had relaxed, I had straightened, I had covered, worn wigs, worn weaves, worn extensions, and I just didn't feel like it anymore.
With more ethnic and natural hairstyles represented in the media today, some feel things are moving in the right direction, but there's still more work to be done to prevent hair discrimination.
So today, in regards to Black hair, we're in almost kind of like this tangled web. Black women are wearing their hair both in natural styles as well as in straightened styles. About 60% of Black women still wear their hair straightened. About 40% of Black women wear their hair in its natural state. We are still in a place where Black people are being discriminated against.
Oh, society and Black hair.
I came up in the Afro style time, so it was acceptable. And then we had to go back to the perm because that's what society wanted, was the perm. And it was in the business world, it was accepted more readily as opposed to Afro.
I was once told that in order to be accepted, that I had to wear my hair like the Caucasian girls in my nursing school instead of the braids.
I'm an elected official, so when I am in the limelight with the public, I feel like I need to wear it shorter and straight to be more acceptable and to meet the requirements. Naturally, I love my curly, wild, blonde, natural, short hair, long hair. That's truly who I am. But I can't. Or I have not felt like I could. I don't feel except I have to prove that although straight hair in the shell and curly wild hair in the shell is the same person, I'm perceived and received differently, and that's the reality. And I don't want my hair to interfere with my work.
So far, about a dozen states, including California, New York, Connecticut, Virginia, Nevada, Washington, and Colorado, have all passed the Crown Act, which prohibits discrimination based on hair textures and hairstyles such as braids, locks, twists, and knots in the workplace and public schools.
So we're proud that SB 188 is well on its way to making history across the country, the Crown Act.
Several other states have considered it, but have not been successful in passing it, including Ohio. House Bill 535 was introduced in March 2020 by Representatives Juanita Brent and Paula Hicks Hudson.
In times like this, implementing policies that normalize acceptance of our differences, that makes us all unique. I believe the Crown Act is a continuation of our caucus, showing not only that we work for you, but also that we will protect your right to pursue the American dream right here in Ohio from head to toe.
The bill expired after one hearing, but the legislators tell 19 News they plan to reintroduce it before the end of this year and pass it into law. Research by Dove reveals 63% of Black adults have faced hair discrimination. 25% of Black adults have been sent home from work or faced disciplinary action as a result of wearing their hair in a natural or protected style. 58% of Black adults say that hair discrimination has impacted their ability to advance at work.
I was talking about how I was going for a nursing interview. And this African-American lady came up to me. She had her hair straight and it was flat, and she says, "Erica, you have to wear your hair like this or they won't take you seriously. You can't wear braids to important events like a nursing interview or things of that nature."
Numerous cases of hair discrimination against Black people have made headlines in recent years, and these are just the incidents that have attracted attention.
A New Jersey high school wrestler forced to cut his dreadlocks or forfeit the match.
Why a teacher would cut his child's hair at school and without permission.
Those who decide to wear their hair in braids, dreadlocks, or sport a natural afro often face more barriers.
This most recent case out of San Diego, California, an African-American man suing his former employer, alleging that the company denied him a job because he refused to cut off his locks.
What does the length of my hair or his hair have to do with his ability to perform the job duties at hand?
His case is the first time someone has accused an employer of violating California's Crown Act since it became law in 2020. Black hair is still marginalized, and as the Textures exhibit continues to inspire conversations about Black hair culture, many are hopeful about changing the narrative for generations to come.
Black hair culture needs to accept one another no matter how you wear your hair.
Black hair culture needs to keep evolving. We're taking it so many different places, and we just need to keep moving forward and showing up.
Take a stand. Our diversity in our hair, our ability, we have all different textures, different lengths. I mean, our hair is amazing. It's actually a piece of art.
Black hair culture needs to be embraced as the normal.
I love my natural hair. I love the water on my hair in the morning, in the shower. I love the fact that I don't have to run from any of the elements. I don't, I love my curls. I wake up every day and I could get a different look. So I love my natural hair.
I do what I want to do with my hair. I can change its color all the time, I just make sure it's healthy. That's it.
Black hair culture needs to make sure that we include all textures and make sure that we make a person feel comfortable about their texture, whether it's straight, curly, or afro. We need to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and that it doesn't define who you are in a workforce.
It was really important for me as a Black woman to try to contribute to the deconstruction of discrimination. And so I'm hoping that textures will be able to give people a little bit of a sense of the humanity of Black beauty.
Reporting for the Next 400.
Now I feel that we as African American men and women have embraced our hairstyle, our natural hairstyle, and I feel that society have come together and realized this is us, this is how we're going to be accepted.
Sia Nyorkor, 19 News. Thank you so much for watching The Next 400, digging into the tangled roots of Black hair. I'm Sia Nyorkor, anchor reporter here at Channel 19 News, and I'm joined here with the beautiful ladies of WOIO. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thank you. All right, so we've just viewed this special report on Black hair, and we've been looking into some of the background, how we got here, the Crown Act. Who's got thoughts?
First of all, let me just say that was a phenomenal piece.
Yes.
And thank you so much for doing that piece. And we all know that we are in the industry. Before we even open our mouths on TV, we're judged. From our earrings to what we're wearing. to our makeup, to our hair. So if you can't be your authentic self, you're not being true to you. And I remember us having conversations saying, Sia, go for it, dude. I don't know, TT, I don't. They said, do it. And I feel like the moment you did it, that was the true Sia Nyorkor.
Thank
and
you.
so I thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I
That was the true
appreciate
Sia
it. Thank
Nyorkor,
you.
right?
Thank you. Yes, it was. It was.
I think it's important to show. A lot of times, I don't think people realize why it's such a big deal.
Mhm.
Like, what? I mean, yeah, we're just telling you to change your hair, just straighten it. And it's like, no, but there's more to it than that. 'Cause
Yes.
for some people, no, they feel more comfortable a certain way. And you're also telling me, like, oh, I can't be myself in the workplace. I need to change a different way, which is going to affect my performance. Somebody said that. Like, that's going to impede my ability because now I don't feel comfortable. So now I'm kind of in a shell and I don't want to open up and do certain things. So I think it's important. And it's great that you included, like, why it's important.
Sure.
Where it comes from.
And Sia, I, want to applaud you and also WOIL for understanding the importance of being able to wear your natural hair.
Yes.
And I know, like, in one case, Shannon and she had straightened her hair one day, and I said it was pretty because it was so soft. But the photographer that was with us that day said, but the thing he liked about your curly hair was the fact that it made you different. It made you stand out. And that's really special.
Absolutely.
And I think, like you said, we need to be celebrated. They call us queens, and that's what we are.
Can we just talk about how relatable that was? I mean, every point, it's like, yes, I've been through that. When the woman said, like, she equated texture to beauty. For the longest, I thought certain hair textures equated to being beautiful. So it was kind of like straight hair was always pretty to me. And then when we were curly hair, it was like, oh, you're eh. And so now when I see beautiful textures on hair, braid, straight, curly, no matter what, it's like this just represents all forms of beauty, not just one type. So I appreciate you for doing that.
I know. Yes. I was going to start with the fact that your story started with the textures exhibit. So it's the fact that, like, our black hair is being showcased in the world, and people are coming out. I mean, it was a white man that you interviewed that was like, I don't have black hair, but I'm here and I feel connected to it and I'm inspired by it. We've always been inspirational in every shape, form that we come in and that we've been in. And I just appreciate the fact that, like, more of us are comfortable with being ourselves, our natural selves. As a person behind the scenes, and I was like listening to you ladies at first, being on television, you have, a different experience for those of us who are behind the scenes. When I made my mind up to be behind the scenes, I was like, I'm rocking every hairstyle that I want to because my sisters don't get to do so, So I go for my leave out with my weaves, but I'll rock my braids, I'll wear my Bantu knots. I have a picture of me in the newsroom, like, the Bantu knots, and I was like, yes, I love that picture of me. And just different hairstyles because, I mean, you guys have at one point been consulted on how it is that you should look, so I'm like, I take pride in being behind the scenes and looking the way that I want to look. So
and being a manager by that, you know what I mean? Being in a manager position that shows, like, it's okay because you're leading by example.
See, I just want to say what you're doing, I believe, is very necessary, especially in these times. I feel like people are waking up now, and we are more comfortable in being ourselves, and you doing things like this makes people feel even more comfortable. I know we probably all felt like, I know when I have my afro, I get looks a certain way. Then when I straighten my hair, it's like, oh, you're so beautiful. It's kind of like a affirmation, like, why don't you just keep wearing your hair like that, like certain people. But I think, as African Americans, I believe that we kind of set the tone for what's going to be culture, what's going to be hot. And so if more of us start doing what we want to do and just say, you're going to have to deal with it because I'm showing up who I am.
Your authentic self.
I think they're going to have to just roll with it. We make it acceptable.
And see, I like how it's changing the narrative too for, like, younger girls. Because, like, when you said you had got your relaxer like at 9 years old, I was like 5 or 6. And I didn't know anything about, like, natural. Wow. 2 years old. Maria, 2 years old when I got
Wow.
And I didn't even know anything about natural hair when I was younger. So,
but then our parents, that put it back to our parents. They don't know much about how to take care of our hair. I mean, I grew up with my mom and just my sisters, and my mom would put us in between her legs and twist it and put a bowl. But then sometimes she sent us off to the hairdresser and allowed them to do what it was that they wanted to do. She didn't let them cut it. That was one
my
thing.
mom said. She said she asked the hairdresser, "What age can someone get a perm?" She said now, and I was 2. And I think sometimes even now that I'm natural, I think I've been natural around the same time you did, Sia. I think sometimes hairdressers, it's just easier to slap a perm on. You gotta actually,
I say that. So I'm the youngest of 4 girls, and we're all close in age. Me and the oldest are 6 years apart. And my mom, like, yeah, she knows how to take care of her, but she always said, like, well, I gave you all relaxers because it was easier to manage when I had 4 heads to do. We got Easter, girl. We got it. I can't be, all day doing it. So she would say, like, that is why. And she was like, once we were old enough, she was like, yeah, you can grow it out or whatever. But she was like, it was just easier to manage. Now you also learn, because I used to tell people all the time, you can get a perm, but it will damage your hair if you don't know how to take care of it. So it's not maybe easy.
Oh, man.
I think it's ready to be done, right? Like, it's burning.
I remember sitting in between my mom's knees, and she was doing my hair, and it was picture day, and she said, "This is the last day I'm going to do your," not because it was a fight. She's just like, "I want you to learn how to do your hair and to be comfortable with doing your hair." Now I got to relax when I say 10, maybe 10 years old, but I remember being in school and kids, "Oh, can I touch you?"
Oh, yeah.
And I would be educating them then, but the fact again that we are able to be our authentic selves at this station is
it's a big deal.
And to educate others with your piece that had no idea. No idea what the
I know so
regimen
many people I talked to had no idea that people had been discriminated against.
Oh, yes.
That was because of their hair.
Because it's not their experience.
It's not their experience. But when you educate someone and let them know, me getting up in the morning doesn't just mean getting cereal, washing my face. It's a process. And when I walk into my job, I don't want to feel judged because I want to be my authentic self.
I think it's important though that we remember that everyone's authentic self looks differently. I know for me, like, it's been like a journey loving my natural hair, but now I love it in a different way. So I don't get relaxers anymore, but I do prefer myself with my hair straight. But I make sure I am taking care of my natural hair. So I don't do perms. I make sure that I'm putting the least amount of heat as possible. So I love it in a different way, and I make sure it's protected while I'm putting curls in it and things like that. So
and your satin pillowcase.
No breakage.
Exactly.
At least we have the option. I feel like, because I think it's fun. We want to be able to wear our hair however we want to wear it.
That's right.
Not just one way. So she should be able to wear her hair straight. You should wear your hair curly, but it shouldn't just be wear it one way. Sometimes you get some people, why don't you just wear it natural? And it's like, but it's easy.
The beauty of it, you have choices. You can wear choices,
right?
And you shouldn't be in fear of having to lose your job or not get a job because of the way your hair looks.
Absolutely.
I want the option. And sometimes it's just, especially in reporting, you go to fires, you in snowstorms. Like, I remember one day I went to a fire, was there the entire time, and came back smelling like smoke. My hair smelled like smoke. And I was calling the hairdresser, like, can you give me a hair tomorrow? Because I need to go to work and this and that. But it's like to have that option, because that's even how I ended up going natural. Well, I've always been natural, and I think that's the thing too, is educating people on what that means. Technically, if your hair is straight and you don't have any chemicals in it, you are natural. You are natural. I tell you that all the time. Like, don't think just because, oh, my hair is curly, this means this is the only way to be natural. Like, no, it is. But I did. I went live. I was reporting. It was the summertime. I was going live. My hair by the last live shot was in a bun because I was sweating. I was by the waterfront. I was sweating. I was in Buffalo. And I actually had a female news director, woman news director, and I was going to get my hair done on a Saturday. It was Thursday. I was going to get my hair done on a Saturday, and I was like, I got to wash my hair, but I'm not going to wash it just to get it done in a day. So I had texted her, and I said, listen, I'm getting my hair done this weekend, but, like, I need to wash my hair. I was just going to wear my natural curls. Is that okay? And she was like, the fact that you even had to ask me that.
Yes, that's the
the fact that you feel like you have to ask me. And she was like, because she's like an Italian woman, she wears her hair curly, sometimes she straightens it, and I was like, I'm going to send you pictures just so you what it looks like, because you feel like you got to explain yourself. And she said no. She said whatever you feel comfortable with. And I said, you don't even know those few words, how that makes me feel.
Just a relief, probably.
And I was just
thing, like you have to
say
think
less.
about.
Let me go wash my hair real quick, because I just was like, let me go ahead and since then I was actually going to get my hair straightened still. And then everybody, just the response from viewers to my coworkers to everybody was just like, wow, but like, it's so great. Like, this is, you it can do this. And I'm just like, yeah. And then I canceled that appointment real quick. And I was like, never mind. I'm free.
And everybody has a wash day. Mine's Sunday. Everybody has a set this hair, get Sunday. Well, I have it down to 45 minutes because I'm like,
wait, wash, blow dry, and straight?
Yep. Yep.
She's a pro.
I had to do it the other day.
She's a pro.
It's from living in Miami.
She's a pro.
No, if I wash my hair, I'm not doing anything else for the day.
No, it's a whole process.
It's a process.
It's like a day. Find your little playlist for washing hair.
I prefer longer, but I can do it in 45. That comes with TV, I think. We all used to like doing stuff fast.
Sia, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when we first, y'all been in the game a while. When we first got our show, I had a family member that was in my life, and he was like, you're gonna have to straighten your hair, right? I'm like, what? He's like, they like the Beyonce look, like maybe get some blonde tracks and things like that. But why did I start panicking? Like I went into like a panic, and I almost called my girlfriend. She's a hairdresser. I knew she could get me in and just straighten me the day before. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah,
but I started panicking. Like, wait a minute, maybe he's right. And I'm so glad I didn't because, but it's the fact that you think that you have to look a certain way.
Right.
Yeah, it was family. Yeah. But I mean, I realized he didn't mean nothing by it, but he's looking at trying to be, trying to fit in, trying to be socially acceptable. So going to what you said, I think my thing is I'm all about trying to decolonize my mind. I've been on a journey for that for a while. So when I talk to my parents and they kind of like, why you doing your hair like that? It's like, this is my hair. So I guess my thing is the reason, why are you wearing your hair straight? Because if it's because you think you look more, you want to fit in and get a job, I think that's something we need to talk about.
We do need to talk about it.
For me, it's easier for me to do. I've been on the air with my hair curly and just one side's this and that. It's more when I'm a mom. I got my mom living with me. It's easier. I wet set it. I'm done for the week. May have to bump. Done. So for me, it's a comfortable thing. It's my personal choice.
And I think sometimes we can easily get offended when people do say, "Well, why aren't you doing this?" Even like my grandfather. I think I FaceTimed him one time. He was like, "So."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Now, sir, come on." But it's one of those things that, and I remember somebody saying this to me, like, you can't fault people for what they know and like what they grew up. At that time, my grandfather's 97 years old.
So
like,
it came a different time. Different time.
Same with like my parents. Same with like our friends. Like everybody comes from a different time, so we can't always fault them for what they know. Even like when men say stuff, it's just like what they knew. If they didn't grow up with sisters, or even if they did, and maybe their sisters did wear weave or locks or whatever, we can't fault people for their experience.
But I'm happy that we're having a conversation to be able to educate people.
That's right.
Sure.
It used to be a time where it was like a white girlfriend would ask me a question about my hair, and it's like, ooh, I gotta try to simplify this in the best way I can understand it. Versus now, it's more open of like, yes, girl, I wear a weave, and this is what it goes.
This is what,
you might call it clip-ins. Sometimes it's like kind of like this ignorance of like they just don't understand hair. Some people, and it's like, no, black hair should not be taboo to talk about. We should be able to talk about it with management.
That's right.
I had a news director look at my reel and say, oh, well, you need to be consistent. And my mom said, you do know when it's raining, you need to put your hair up. When it's just like what you're saying, the fire. So sometimes I like the fact that we can educate them, like, this is why my hair is in a bun. This is why my hair might be curly one day. It may not. I don't have the luxury to always be consistent, especially when your hair is natural. So.
Well, and working in news, nothing is consistent. You know what I mean?
Nothing's consistent.
Everything is different. So it's like I'm just trying to match the energy of the day.
That's right.
We have to conform to what you think is beautiful.
Right.
Because especially being in the Cleveland market, the demographic I ask is predominantly black and urban. So this is what we like. So since if you're the higher up or the manager or the boss, maybe you need to get with the program because this is how we look. We might not like how you look, but who are we to say that though? I think the fact that you had to call, text, and ask like, hey, I gotta wear my hair like this. It's kind of like dehumanizing in a way. Like I gotta kind of explain why I'm about to show up this way. Explain why you show up the way you look.
When one of the ladies, it resonated with me when she said, I don't want my hair to stop. and get in the way of my work. And I saw a lot of you ladies nodding.
Absolutely.
You know, what are your thoughts about that?
When I was interning, I remember someone told me, you may want to cut your hair because you already look 12 and you want people to be able to take you seriously when you're talking about the serious stuff. And I didn't know anything. I'm still in college. I'm like, okay, sure. So I'm like cutting my hair, making it all like serious news reporter, short bob thing. And the more I start to like do the job, and I'm like, I am serious. People know when I'm saying is real. I don't need to like conform my hair or do anything to change it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go longer. I'm gonna do what makes me feel cute, and I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna do it well, and people are gonna perceive that. Like my hair has nothing to do with the words that are coming out of my mouth.
I once had a news director say something to me about another employee who wanted to get thin braids to wear on the air. And that news director is like, I just don't know if I want that in my newsroom. And it's like, it was so offensive. You know, and it's like, and you're saying that to me, you know, and I'm hearing that. And it just says a lot about how people would look at our natural hair years ago. The one thing that made me so sad and it made me cry was hearing the Lady Erica talk on there.
Oh yeah, she tugged at your heart.
And then she said ugly or something like
Unloved.
that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and you should never feel that way, and she should have never felt like that was going to impact her getting a job.
I like what the guy said about the other man, the guy in California who's now suing.
That's
when
right.
he said like, what's on top of my head have to do with my ability to do my job?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not affecting how I talk unless it's getting in my mouth. It's not affecting, you know what I mean? Like how is that? It doesn't affect. It doesn't impact. And right, like you said, we're in a visual medium.
It's because it's deeper than just how we look. It's about who we are naturally and being and having pride in who we are and walking into these spaces and taking up space. That could be with our natural hair. That could be with the way that we walk with our heads up high. That could be just with the skin, the color of our skin. You know, I think it's the reason it's a thing is because it's deeper than just how we look.
I think they have some biases with it, and they equate certain things. Like they might equate braids to being quote unquote ghetto, and they think, well, if you come in my newsroom with these braids on, what are people gonna think? And it's like, but it's a hairstyle. I don't talk about anybody like you said. We could perceive certain things, different perceptions, but the whole notion of like certain hairstyles were always tied to certain misconceptions of our culture too is why. And that's why I'm like, education is so important. I'm so happy we're having this on a public, we're using our platform to tell people it's okay, you can have braids because your braids look beautiful. Professional.
Taisha, what's been your experience? And I know you're a little more quiet. What is everybody has a personal Taisha, what's your experience?
So with the relaxers, it got emotional right there for me too, because I had been getting them for so long, and then when I started doing my own hair, I didn't know how to take care of my hair in its natural state. I started in college like wearing my real hair, and then it just started falling out because I wasn't taking care of it properly. So now I'm trying to, grow it back, and I've been going to try to get help for it, and I went to a doctor and he told me there wasn't enough research for African American hair to help me. So he gave me this medication that was for like prostate cancer. And I'm like, how does that help? I don't have cancer, I don't have a prostate. Like, what is this about? So
see, I'm glad you're sharing
that was
I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. You're with us. You're a fan.
So I try to, braid it or keep it some kind of healthy, but it just keeps like it's thinning out, and I just don't know what to do with it anymore. So, wigs help, braids help, but sometimes I don't feel myself because I'm not wearing my natural hair like I want to, but the damage is already, it's been done for so many years. So I'm still working on it, I'm still trying to get it to grow back, but it's just really difficult, and I'm glad you're doing this so that young girls can see that they don't have to wear relaxers. They don't.
And that if somebody's not wearing a relaxer, you never know their story. They might be wearing it because they might have a health issue or something going on. It's about I think it's about having the choice.
That's right.
But it's all beautiful. Straight or curly, afro. How you want to wear it. It's your hair. That's right, even bald. Say that.
Oh, my hair fell out. I didn't know what to do, so I just shaved my hair off, and you get the looks. I had to wear the big hoop earrings to stay attractive.
But some people kill the like short bald look. Their face be so well like
thinking about like cutting my hair and just like you said, starting over.
Yeah, absolutely.
That might even be it.
Yeah. I mean, I've had it cut short before and I really liked it, but I missed my hair like the next like month. So.
Right.
Let it
grow. His hair it grows back, right?
All right. Yeah.
Listen,
we got you. You're okay. I'm glad you shared that story.
Oh, ladies, thank you.
Just for the record, my husband does like my hair curly.
Just for the record.
I was just saying that it's a recent discussion online of these men on a podcast, and they're all talking about their favorite hairstyles.
Oh.
And all of them were like, "Oh, I love a woman with braids." Like, right? They're just like, "Oh, I love a blonde bob," and it's like great to know, even though we're gonna wear what we want to.
This is good. This is good. So these conversations are important as our lawmakers look to get the Crown Act passed here in Ohio. You know?
Yeah, very
important. It's a shame it hasn't been already, or that it's taken this long.
Yeah, or that we have to. That we have to.
The fact that we're even having like, oh, I hope they pass this bill so I can wear whatever hair I want to. Like, that's ridiculous.
I gotta force you to treat me right. Treat me like everybody else.
Looking into when they were presenting the bill and seeing the white men's stone face, and you could just tell that they either didn't understand, didn't care, or didn't want to listen. It was just kind of like, of course it didn't pass it with them because I just could see that it just didn't resonate. Because when they were listening to it, it just was kind of like, okay, when's lunch?
They need to watch. Everybody needs to watch Sia's.
I was gonna say maybe this conversation, ladies. This conversation is very helpful. This conversation is helpful. So,
because like if they had little kids, or if they had children and their hair got discriminated against, or if it happened to them, then they would understand a little bit more. But when you also have politicians that don't look like you, they don't want to pass bills that they're passing them.
Because usually the ones talking, right, to present it in the first place, like, what do they look like? They look like us, because that's their lived experience.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's only gonna take the ones that look like us to make it happen. You know, we have to speak up in these spaces. Now, it's literally this song that I listen to, y'all. It's called "Take Up Space, Sis," and like it's like a little vibe, like "Take up space, sis," and it's just like when I think of it, it's first thing that comes to mind is my hair, because like it's like I don't have that long of a length for my hair, and my hair is not that thick. I have some thin hair. If it get flat ironed out, it's like boom, like it falls right under there, and it's just like so that's why I rock all the hairstyles. But yes,
I think you said it earlier. Just like it's important that we take up space, and in our spaces that we're the ones pushing for.
That's
like
right.
You said, like on your show,
use your platform,
because
use
that's
your voice.
Honestly what it's going to take for people to take it seriously, even though they should already. But that's what it's really going to take, because so many people look up. I mean, it's such a feeling I know we all have had when you have some young girl or their parent being like, "Oh my gosh, I love watching you."
Yes.
My daughter like loves watching you, or I'm happy to see. You know,
yes.
And it's just like you don't even realize that. But it really hits home when they do say that, because you're like, right now, because you didn't always have that growing up. You know?
No, we didn't.
And I would say too, it would be so much easier for me to throw in a wig or throw on a, straighten it out and have some inches down in my back. But I'm intentional now, even though my uncle kind of knocked me off my game. I'm intentional now because I do want little young girls to see, someone that looks just like them on TV. I got your kinky hair, and I'm still beautiful, and I still got a job. I'm on TV. I don't even speak proper. I'm on TV. You can do this too. You shouldn't be discriminated because of your appearance.
Even when you wear your natural hair, you're still a little self-conscious, because I know sometimes I've come in and I'm like, oh wait, this didn't look in the mirror how I thought. Is this curl? And I'll be like, hey, can you turn the camera right back?
Let me make sure.
Really like what I think it is.
Do
and
this
I was
check.
like, no, it always looks good. And I'm like, but still sometimes because you have to represent well.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to make sure, no, if it's on, curls popping. Like,
curls popping.
TV magnifies that anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so many things that we have to think about.
So.
But the one thing I just want to mention real quick was I started in this business 35 years ago. Everybody had a bob. Everybody wore suits.
The same.
Everybody looked identical. I mean, and so it is so great to see things finally evolving. I mean, it's taken this long.
Yeah.
But
look at us. Look at all of us.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
Natural or not, I'm rocking highlights.
Wear your hair how you want to wear a crown.
Got to have highlights.
All right, well, thank you so much for watching. We are uploading this to our website, cleveland19.com, and we want all of you to continue the conversations there and to talk about this issue of the Crown Act and black hair. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sia. Thank you, Sia.
Textures, the history and art of black hair runs through August 2022 at Kent State University Museum. We are continuing the conversations on our digital and OTT platforms using the hashtag 19Textures. What is your experience, and should Ohio pass the Crown Act? Join the conversations. For the Next 400, I'm Sia Nyorkor reporting.
All right, Sia, come on up, my sister. And so we're going to be taking some questions for Sia. You can, if you want to stand right there. You didn't get a chance to get up there, so you go ahead. And Sia will take your questions. So first off, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Since your story came out, there's been so much buzz about the exhibition and conversations that have started. And I think that you were so brave to just do it, and the courage. And oftentimes, you know, when anything is going to change, people have to break the rules.
Yes.
We have to break the rules sometimes.
Yes.
And I'm proud that you were able to break the rules.
Thank you.
Yes.
We did break the rules. My executive producer, Temu Thomas, is here right there. Say hello, Temu. And when we came to interview Dr. Ellington and Dr. Underwood here, and I remember texting her, and I was just looking around at the exhibit, and I was like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to be able to fit all this into 2 minutes. Because that's typically what you get for a traditional news story, 2 minutes. And I remember we went over to the corner, and I was just like, this is bigger than 2 minutes. And she was just like, just write, just do it. She's like, I'll take care of it. And she took care of it. And so I'm really grateful and thankful to her for
Can you stand up?
Stand up,
Come
Temu.
on, come on, stand up.
Temu Thomas. Really grateful and thankful to her, because a lot of this we did. Come on in. Yeah, come on in. Thank you. A lot of this we did on our own time and in downtime, while still reporting news of the day, breaking news and other projects and stuff. And so, you know, we got it to the finish line, and we're really, really grateful for that. So thank you.
Yeah. Any questions for Sia or comments about the show? Yes.
This was great to see. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
How do you negotiate the emotional stakes of putting yourself out there, your own story and journey, and the obligation you feel to represent for other women of color who really wish they could have an ounce of the audacity that you had to make this real and make this come to fruition?
Thank you. It's tough. I've been natural since 2011. But I covered. I had to wear my wigs, I had to wear my weaves, and I felt that I had to do that to get ahead. And it got to a point about 2018 where I was working here in Cleveland, and I was just like, I don't want to do this no more. And I said, after I came back from that NABJ convention, the National Association of Black Journalists, I was just like, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna, you know what? If they fire me, I know I signed this contract, but I had another news director who told me, he's just like, I don't really pay attention to your hair, Sia. He's like, you're a storyteller. You know, you connect with people. That's, so he's just like, wear your hair how you want, but he left the business. And then I had someone new to deal with. But the fact that I did it, and like I said, I didn't ask for permission. And no one said anything to me until maybe like a few days later. My assistant news director, he came up to me in the newsroom. I remember my heart was pounding. I was like, oh my God, this is it. We're going to the office. Let me pack my box, get my things. And he was just like, did you do something with your hair? And I'm like, duh, you think? It's not straight anymore, you know. And he's just like, I really like it. And that was it. I had built up in my mind that it was going to be this big thing, that it was going to be this fight, and it wasn't. You know, I was the one who had to be comfortable with it. And I say that for the first year, I wore my hair, when I anchored and reported, I wore it up in an Afro puff because I wasn't comfortable yet wearing it like today, like now. It took me almost a year. And the reason why is because I wanted to be comfortable. You know, I remember, I work early mornings. So I go to bed early, I wake up 3:45 in the morning, and I would have this anxiety, like, am I gonna do it? Am I gonna wear it out? And I said, I don't wanna be that way. When I wear my hair out, I wanna be comfortable. I don't wanna have second thoughts about it. I just wanna do it. When I pull the trigger, I'm gonna just do it. And I finally woke up one morning and I just did it, you know? But it took a minute. It took me a while. And like I said, I wanted to be comfortable, and it was me that did it that way. And I remember getting emails and phone calls, and people were like, oh my God. And then that was it. But it's true. A lot of people don't have that, they don't have that agency, you know, and I tell people that this is different than when I first started my career, you know, versus now. I'm in the middle of my career, so I'm able to move a little differently. I know that everybody doesn't have that option. When I was working in Gainesville, Florida, and Wichita, Kansas, the same way that Professor Whitney Harris was talking about their trade, we had that same trade at a Nevada salon. I was the first Black person to come to their salon. And at the time I was wearing a weave. And I walked in and they were just like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Like, and I remember I was just like, I'm here. Let's just do it, it's hair. And I explained to them, I'm like, listen, I'm wearing a weave. Here's my leave out. You just have to worry about this little part. The rest of it, it's not mine, so do whatever you want. Just get it straight, like the way they said. And after that, I mean, it was fine. It was fine, you know. But the fact that we had to do that, there was no hair trade for, I was going to say for the Black reporters, but I was the only Black reporter. There was no hair trade for me, you know, and so they had to adjust. You know, they had to adjust and learn how to do my hair. And ironically enough, that was one of the healthiest times for my hair. Because I was wearing that protective style, because I was wearing hair extensions, my hair was down my back. When I took out that weave, I was there about 2.5 years, almost 3. Man, my hair was flowing, you know, it was flowing. So they learned to get in between the tracks and oil it, and I learned to take care of it and protect it and give it breaks and, you know, put things back on. But yeah, it was a whole thing, you know, it was a whole thing.
Any other questions for Sia? You have a question?
A lot.
Yes. We will be having a keynote. The keynote will start at 6 o'clock, so we're actually about to adjourn in just a moment. Okay? And so if you want to come back at 6 for the keynote, you can. I can give you a brochure so that you can see what the schedule will be tomorrow. So we'll be back tomorrow, okay? Any other questions for Sia? Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So we will return at 6 p.m. and we have our keynote speaker today. And we will, for those of you that are presenters, if you want some time to just relax, you want some snacks, we have snacks over in the director's suite. So you are more than welcome to go over there. For those of you that may want to go into the gallery and take a look at the gallery, if you haven't had an opportunity to do that, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want, we have enough time. We have about we have 2 hours. So if you want, I would be willing to do an actual tour for you all. So I can do that. If we want to start like around maybe 4:15, okay, and I can do a tour for you, and then we'll come back. If you want to get a break or whatever, you know, we can do that too. But all right, so I'll see you all in just a moment. I'll meet you right out in this hallway at 4:15, okay?